Absolutely, like we're very aware of that, and we're talking with chocolate makers here in the UK where I'm based, but also forming liaisons and partnerships with chocolate makers, or rather cacao producers, exporters in West Africa, to see and really understand, how do we do this without having negative secondary and tertiary effects. At the minute, obviously, we're a very tiny company, so our kind of footprint will be very small. So I think, I suppose that how I sleep at night is that I say that we don't have to think about those problems right. We don't have to know the solutions to those problems right now, because if we launch a product in 2 months and it does really well, it'll be like 0.00001% of the world's chocolate supply, right? Less than that. But we have to know and have this, 3 to 5 to 10 year to 20 year to 30 year roadmap of, okay, if we create this thing and consumers like it and it gets adopted, and we form these relationships either with these large companies, or we create entire new supply chains where we kind of take some of their business. How are we going to mitigate negative effects to those farmers and their families? Look, the honest answer is I don't have the solution for that yet, but it's at the forefront of our mind, and we're keen to chat to as many people on the ground as possible. And look, already we've ruffled some feathers, because we've had some chocolate makers in Mexico got in touch with quite an angry message and said, like, what the fuck are you doing? This is a stupid idea. And we said, I suppose that there's two responses to that as a new company. You can either try to ignore it and delete those sorts of comments from your social media, or you engage with it. And obviously what we did and what we want to do is to engage with those people. So we've had a conversation. We're going to organise some more web calls with them and understand their concerns and actually how we can feed into making their lives better, basically.
Interesting. So I was very lucky to have one of your... I was going to talk about the chocolate that I'd experienced, but carry on, make your point.
Yeah, I'll just add one final thing, and that's, so the really interesting thing about most of the chocolate that gets sold in the world is that very little of your... I'll say Cadbury's and Hershey's because they're two big names, but very little of that chocolate bar is actually cacao. Mostly it's a lot of it's cacao butter, but that actually gets replaced by palm oil these days, and then about 30 to 35% of it is sugar. So there's this interesting thing where most of what people, when we call it a chocolate bar, and you would point at it and go, that's chocolate, but actually very little of it, less than 30% probably of most of the chocolate that gets sold is actually cacao. And then that gets even worse, that we have these things called like chocolate flavored coatings. So with an ice lolly and a choc ice, the coating on that, which you would look at and you would say, hey, it's chocolate, that actually contains even fewer cacao solids, to the extent that it can't legally be called chocolate. So actually already people are eating chocolate that doesn't contain that much chocolate. So it's just this sort of weird thing that the situation exists already.
I see. Yeah, interesting. And so your product will try to disrupt both of those things, when it not just the use of cacao, but also the use of palm oil, which itself is a massive contributor towards deforestation.
Absolutely. So we're looking at using oils that are extracted from byproducts from the fruit industry, and so we're working with a sort of palette of those at the minute, trying to find this perfect set of qualities. And of course, cacao, the reason we love chocolate is it tastes amazing, but it also has these incredible melt properties. So it has these 5-6 crystal structures, and the form that it is set in most chocolate, the melt profile is such that that chocolate melts at basically your body temperature, and it melts quite quickly, so you feel this sense of chocolate liquefying in your mouth. So whereas some other things, you put them in your mouth, they start to melt. With chocolate, it kind of the melt curve is like this, so it just feels like it's liquefying, and that's where we get this sense of quite otherworldly indulgence, and mixed with the kind of mouthfeel and the fattiness. It's just this really magical really magical product, but it's very difficult to recreate. But people do it in the chocolate industry already with various palm oil and kind of substitutes, these things called cocoa butter enhancers and cocoa butter substitutes.